He wasn't supposed to stop that night. The rain was coming down in hard, silver sheets, and the rumble of engines echoed through the dark highway as the iron vultures rode back from a run. But when their leader, Jax Rivers, caught sight of a lonely roadside diner with flickering neon lights and an open sign fighting to stay alive, something made him pull over. Maybe it was the ache in his bones, or maybe fate had decided that was the night everything would change. He stepped in, the bell above the door jingling weakly. The smell of coffee and fried bacon filled the air. A few truckers sat hunched over their meals, and the jukebox whispered an old country tune. Then his eyes fell on her. She was behind the counter, wearing a faded apron, her hair tied back, and her smile, forced but kind, barely hiding the exhaustion beneath it. When she turned to pour him coffee, the sleeve of her shirt slipped slightly, revealing dark bruises along her arm. Not old ones either, fresh. His jaw tightened instantly. Jax wasn't the type to meddle. He had seen enough pain in his life to know that asking questions could open wounds you couldn't close. But something about her, the quiet way she flinched at sudden sounds, the tremor in her hands, made him want to know who had hurt her. He looked at her name tag. Mara. Rough night, he asked casually. She smiled politely, like someone who had learned to smile no matter how bad it hurt. Every night's the same, she said softly, but Jax could hear what her words didn't say. He'd been in enough fights to recognize fear hiding behind a practiced calm. The other bikers came in, loud and joking, shaking off their jackets and ordering food. But Jax kept his eyes on Mara. When a man came in later, a big guy with a mean face and eyes that looked for something to break, Jax understood everything. The guy walked straight up to Mara, hissed something under his breath, and when she turned pale, Jax's blood boiled. He stood. Problem here? The man looked at him, his smirk wide. None of your business, biker. But Jax wasn't backing down. Not when he'd seen those bruises. Looks like it just became my business. The diner went silent. Even the jukebox seemed to stop. The man backed off, muttering something about stupid bikers, but Jax noticed the way Mara's hands trembled as she tried to continue her work. When he left, she whispered, "You shouldn't have done that. You don't know him." Jax tilted his head. "Then tell me." She looked down, her voice barely a breath. "He's my ex. He doesn't like being called that." He didn't ask more. He just said, "You don't have to go home tonight. If you need help, you got it." She gave him a tearful smile, but he could tell she didn't believe anyone could help her. He left her his number on a napkin anyway. The next morning, his phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "He found me. Please help." Jax didn't think. He just rode. The iron vultures weren't saints, but they had their own code. And when their leader said someone needed protecting, they didn't ask questions. They followed. They found Mara in her small apartment, the door broken, glass shattered. The man who'd threatened her was gone, but she was sitting in a corner, shaking. Jax knelt beside her. "You're safe now," he said softly, but the real story was just beginning. Over the next weeks, Mara began working at the Vulture's roadside garage cafe. The bikers treated her like family, making sure she smiled for real this time. But small towns have long memories, and rumors travel faster than motorcycles. People whispered that the gang had taken in a broken waitress. Some said she was trouble. Others said Jax had gone soft. Jax didn't care. He'd seen too many lost souls left behind. Mara deserved better. But peace doesn't last long when darkness still lingers in the shadows. One night, the man returned. He came drunk and furious, bringing a gun, thinking he could scare his way back into control. He burst into the cafe, shouting Mara's name, but before he could take another step, Jax stepped forward. "Not tonight," Jax said calmly. The man sneered. "You think you can protect her from me?" Jax's voice was low but filled with steel. "No. We can." The sound of boots echoed behind him as the iron vultures stood shoulder to shoulder, forming a wall between Mara and her past. The man raised the gun, then the police sirens wailed in the distance. Someone had called them already. Jax didn't move until the officers took him away, screaming and cursing. When it was over, Mara broke down, sobbing into Jax's chest. "Why would you risk everything for me?" He looked at her, eyes heavy with memories of his own past. "Because someone once did the same for me," he said quietly. "And I never forgot how it felt to finally be free." Weeks turned into months. Mara began painting again, something she hadn't done since before the bruises. She started smiling without forcing it, and the cafe became more than a hangout, it became a place of second chances. People in town began to see the Iron Vultures differently. They weren't just bikers anymore, they were protectors, misfits who carried scars but still believed in redemption. And as for Jax, he never admitted it out loud, but every time he watched Mara laugh, something in him healed too. The story spread through town how the biker gang leader saved a waitress and stood against her abuser. Some called it reckless. Others called it heroic, but to Jax, it was simple. You don't need to wear a badge or a suit to do what's right. Sometimes, all it takes is the courage to stop for coffee on a rainy night and not look away when someone's quietly breaking inside.